I've been messing around with this befuddled Canadian blonde. Originally I just had a picnic tap going straight from the Cornelius keg, and there was lots of fobbing, huge amounts of foam, and not much carbonation in the beer itself. So I've introduced a few feet of a narrower bore beer line, and that's reduced the fobbing completely and allowed more carbonation to stay in the beer itself. Not very highly carbonated because I've not had it under an extremely high pressure of carbon dioxide, and I've kept the keg at cellar temperature, room temperature, whatever. It's not gone really cold, and as a lot of you are probably aware, when you want to force carbonate a beer, the most efficient way to get the carbon dioxide into that liquid is to reduce the temperature of the beer right down very low, 1 or 2 degrees C, and then you'll get that solubility of the carbon dioxide increased. So not very fizzy, but at least it's not half head, half beer. Now, another thing I noticed, I've been trying to dick about with this to get the flavour improved so it doesn't taste, so it doesn't have that homebrew twang which I felt that it had at first. There was definitely a strange aroma, which I think I've put down to the yeast being stressed. It was a Bohemian lager yeast, I seem to remember, and I think I underpitched it, so the yeast was a little stressed, and the flavour just wasn't quite right. So when I brew all grain, I usually add some liquor salts to the brewing water, and obviously this being an adapted kit, there weren't any salts in there. The only water treatment was the Camden to remove the chloramine. So what I've done in the keg, I've added a pinch of Epsom salts just to add a little bit more flavour to the water, really, just to give another dimension to it. And it still had quite a strong aroma. And what I hadn't realised is I've been quite heavy-handed on the Fuggles. And Fuggles, I think, is an acquired taste, can be quite a spicy aroma hop, and if you add a lot of it, you can give a grassy taste to the beer. Some people like it, some people really don't like that, and they don't think you should use too many hops when you dry hop in secondary or in the keg. And I found this out because, in a way to mask what I thought was an off flavour, only slightly, I've added some more Fuggles to the keg itself, put them in a spice bag so it wouldn't block the piping, and I've noticed the aroma that I noticed twice. The aroma that I detected, which I thought was an off flavour, was actually even more pronounced. It's just the rather spicy note, because I don't know if you remember, I put a hell of a lot of dry hops in secondary, and it wasn't unpleasant. It was just an aroma and taste that I wasn't quite expecting, but actually I do quite like it. So anyway, I resolved myself to the fact that this is now the finished article. Pretty good head retention, well, not bad at all anyway. Not that should really be important. If head retention is important to you, one factor is the amount of alpha acid in there. So if you do have a lot of hops in there, it does help head retention. Another thing is, if you're brewing the proteins, if you're brewing all grain or using grain, the proteins will help with the head retention. So particularly things like flaked wheat and wheat malt, they can really help with the head retention there. Even if you put just a small amount in that you wouldn't detect the flavour, it will help that head, but really it's just an aesthetic thing. But one thing to remember is oils will reduce the head retention, so if it is important to you, I would, hang back on things which introduce oils, whether you're using any sort of peculiar additives or spices. And another thing, I'm just trying to remember the name of, which is, I think it's malted oats, which are lovely and give a smooth mouthfeel to a beer. That's mainly because of the oil in it. That will probably affect your head retention. If you don't then add some wheat or something like that to counteract it. Anyway, I'm going to shut up and have this beer. Yeah, that's not bad at all. Actually, every time I have this, it tastes better than better, but bizarrely, I think it's improved for going even more heavy on the Fuggles. Because when I did add a load into the secondary, I think I went heavy on the grassy notes and lost quite a lot of the aroma with time. But now the Fuggles are actually there in the keg. It's fresh. You get the aroma as well as that slightly grassy taste, but it all seems to balance out. And I'm speaking quickly now because my camera is flashing at me something's going to run out, whether it's the space on the memory card or the battery. So, cheers. Ah, lovely.